And we are live. Welcome, everyone. My name is Niki Lopez of The Circle, and you're watching a special edition of The Circle where we're going to go into an artist chat. Artists talk about our latest exhibition. For those who are maybe just tuning in, The Circle is a podcast that was started in 2018 where I talk to artists, activists, social entrepreneurs, people doing great things in the world. And I've been doing it. We've been on a little bit of a break, but hopefully we're coming back. And I have a special guest, my co-collaborator, curator. We have a joint art show that we're going to talk about, Khaulah Naima Nuruddin. And so we have an exhibition. It's called As a Matter of Fact. And it's at the 1310 Gallery in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And it'll be up until June 10th. And so we're going to go through some things. And we have Khaulah, you want to talk a little bit about the exhibition? Well, a quick little intro. So it's been a little while. Let's see. Oh, we have someone in the group saying, hey, so if you're in, we're live in a couple of places. So guys, excuse me, I'm a little rusty. It's been a little while. So we're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube, and we're live on Facebook in a few places. But if you're in the Facebook group, the name doesn't come through. So if you want me to know the name, please add it to your the tag. I see we have Natalie saying, hi, guys. And I love the exhibition. Thanks for coming. And someone else on the Facebook group saying hello. So, quick little intro about Khaulah. Khaulah Naima Nuruddin is a multidisciplinary artist from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who lives and works in South Florida. Khaulah's work explores the intersection of personal expression and social commentary by initiating public discussions of race, sexuality, and social transfer inherent to her work as a Black visual artist. Khaulah has earned her BFA from the University of South Florida and her MFA from Florida Atlantic University. She's an adjunct art instructor and serves as a curator and exhibition manager for the Spady Heritage Museum.
Mm-hmm. Well, as much as your circle regulars know you, some people might be new, and it's good to introduce them to you. So let me hit them with your bio. Thank you for sharing my information. So people have a little understanding of who I am and what I do. So Niki, if you don't already know, she is an Afro-Latina lesbian interdisciplinary visual artist, curator, and social practitioner. She's known for her vibrant color palette, her avant-garde exhibitions, her masks, and her collections of works dealing with trauma and healing through the arts, inspiring the creation of transformative arts movement. What's Your Elephant? Lopez, Niki, obviously. Recent mixed media reliefs incorporate mass and mask elements, exemplifying components of her meditative journey toward Afrocentric spirituality, self-discovery, reflection, healing, restoration, and guess what? Social justice. Boom.
Boom.
And she's amazing. That's not in the bio, but I'm gonna put that on there.
Thank you. So you want to tell us a little bit about, we're going to get some slides set up.
So what we're gonna do, now that you all know who we are and the basics of what we do in our art practices, what we're gonna do is just kind of go through the exhibition a little bit. We're not gonna share all the treats, but we're gonna give you some treats. So this exhibit at 1310 Gallery, as a matter of fact, is an exhibition where the two of us, we consider ourselves to be on the fringe, right? and others might consider us to be that way as well. We're unwilling to be pressured by social norms and constructs. We're committed to creating work that builds community and understanding. Um, and the fact is that all individuals are relevant. The fact is that groups of people are relevant. So, as a matter of fact, women are the center of paving fruitful paths for mankind uh, to survive the atrocities of humanity in order to promote massive change and communal health and well being. So, the facts suggest that open eyes are not bound by others' perceptions of how to function and navigate societal norms. So this exhibition is our take on that. So what we're going to do as we move forward through this discussion is we're going to um, just kind of, so the way we designed the space, and if you haven't seen the show, it's a must see. That's my opinion, you know, and I'm usually right. Right, Nikki?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Oh, we're online. Yes,
Oh, so, if you haven't seen the show, it's definitely a must see. Um, but what we're going to do is share with you just a few pieces. But the way we designed the space is we were very committed to making sure that our works were integrated throughout the 3 floors of gallery space. So each floor represents both of our works, or it exposes both of our works, and we tried to make sure that was as fluid as possible. Um, and I think we did a great job with that. So definitely see the show. Um, so the works that we're going to share with you here today is a little, excerpt of that. And we're going to share that with you in a similar way where, we're kind of going to flow back and forth. So the first piece we want to share with you, Nikki, is there anything you want to express?
no, I'm just
Just,
excited to
yeah.
be here. I see Cherie said she'll be popping in and out. Thank you so much. And I see Richard, another artist that was in one of the projects. He's here online. And Chassie, thank you all for being here. Please consider sharing this to y'all networks so other people may want to check in and check it out. So just jumping into the piece. This piece here is called Like the Phoenix I Am. And this work, 40 by 60, so 4 by 5 feet, is probably, I think it was my second or third largest piece that I've done. And this is, taking some of the mass elements that I've done in other pieces and bringing it in. So like the Phoenix I Am, it's telling a lot of stories. So some of my process when I'm working on my pieces, some of my work as I'm learning about Afrocentric spirituality, Yoruba, Orishas, all the Orishas, a good friend of mine who's a high priest, I sometimes would talk with her and say, this is what I'm trying to express and things like that. And she would tell me about it. So some of the Orishas. So with this particular piece, she was sharing with me about the Orisha Oba. And so some of the reference where there's some pink, sometimes I, paint my face. And so there's, she had mauve, and she was someone that had a resilience. She went through a lot of different things and had to build from that. So she has, she's connected to protection and manifestation and movement. So this large piece, oh, hello, frequency. Thanks for being here. So this large piece here is a culmination of a few things. It's the work, the inner work that I've been working on, whether it's therapy, mindfulness, meditation, learning, connecting to my ancestors, connecting to, just things, shadow work. So you have that, that ancient spiral that's coming in. So it's, and it's yellow, it's supposed to be bright and illuminating. So like working on glowing from the inside out, and then you have the locks that are kind of electrifying almost, right? There's some, silver in them, and they're kind of connecting out into the world. So there's part of the energy of this piece that is kind of coming out and going in at the same time. And blue, some of you may know that I've been getting into doing being learning to swim over the past few years. And it's interesting, blue has been something that I wasn't even connected to. Has been a color that's been around me forever. Like my bedroom is blue, and there's waves there, years before I even learned to swim. So those are some of the pieces, and you see a little bit of details in how the texture was building up. So over the years, outside of me doing mass, I've also been building up on the texture of the backgrounds and things like that. So this is really me building up a lot of the textures and play like that. And so that's what this piece is about. And I shall go to the next slide, which is Khaulah. You're muted.
Oh yeah, I muted myself because I was coughing. I didn't want y'all to think I had COVID.
Oh, Lord.
But I don't. So anyway, these two pieces are I pretty much strictly want to show them together. And it's an abstracted exclamation mark and a period. And these are very large works. So, no human is taller than them when you put them on the wall. And this is the first time I've shown them in this particular way. So this is birch wood, and there's acrylic, enamel, and oil that provides the color, and heavy body gesso that gives it a lot of that texture that you would have to, it's like you want to touch it, or I do. But so these two pieces, I've shown them a few different times in different ways. And for this exhibition, normally I have shown them with roofing felt behind them. So there's this, intense contrast, the blackness of the roofing felt, and then the vibrance of the color is a nice high contrast experience. But I think this exhibition, the way it ended up coming out, is a little more subtle. It doesn't really hit you in the face that way. Um, so these pieces, exclamation mark and period, they are like the essence of as a matter of fact, you know. And so this is something we've been saying since I was a child. My mother would say to me, uh, "You going to school? Period." You know. So we've been saying period since I'm sure before I was born. So you know, these two pieces are about it's serious, and that's the end of it. And that speaks to all the things going on in the world that are serious in your individual life, in your community, like mental health issues, physical health issues, women's health issues. Exclamation mark is period. you know, it's important, it's now, and that's the end of that. And then what do we do now? What's the next paragraph? So that's what these two pieces really mean for me. Um, and they also uh, express or exemplify something that you'll find in pretty much all of my work, some variety of, a passageway. Um, One might call it a portal. So,
Sounds
in
really
these,
good too.
I'm sorry?
I said that's what I was going to say too. Portal.
Yes. So, but I started saying passageway now. Um, Either way, they're synonyms. So, they hold that same visual language. Um, so I think that's all I really need to express about that. What's next?
Okay. So next are some of my one of my masks is showing from different views, different angles. This one is called A Hero's Journey. So sometimes I do speak on how I've survived many different traumas in my childhood and growing up of different things that, that's for another time. And me processing some of those things, art was the first thing that it started coming out in the art. And eventually then I went into therapy, and I've been using different modalities of therapy and art, and just, other type of things to heal. And so when my first time going to a therapy session, there was this organization, and it was through the county, and they had free therapy for people who've gone through like um, any type of like sexual trauma and things like that. And you work with a therapist for a little while, and then once you're at a certain level, then they have you in a group therapy. And so every now and then we would do different projects. So one of the times we did this project where they wanted us, they had these little paper masks, and it wasn't as elaborate, but that's just we had to describe what are some of the words that are connected to the unhealed us things that we've gone through, um, and then words that describe, what do we want to feel like when we're healed. So this is called the hero's journey, because between the colors and the words is kind of describing that journey for myself, right? So at the bottom you see voiceless, damage, um, there's some other power, and it's crossed out. And then towards the top, as she is being healed, then you see self-love, empathy, growth, resilience, all of those things. So I have several masks. I first would, start off with my face, and then at some point I made a mold, so I'm able to create different pieces from that mask. And so I really connected with that project a lot. So once it was finished, at some point, I created an art piece that had a similar concept to the project that we did in a therapy session. So that is a hero's journey. Thank you.
It's interesting because this piece that we're looking at now here, called Shutters, it kind of, you know, is the other side of the hero's journey in a way. Um, and we didn't plan that to arrange in this way, but that's pretty much what this piece is about. So this is, a piece of birch wood uh, that has been painted with enamel and oil, and it has shutters attached to it. These are uh, storm shutters, hurricane shutters that I collected from the streets somewhere. So these shutters, they're about protecting, what you have inside, protecting what you've built, protecting your home, and you know, like this is maybe one of the heaviest pieces I have in this show, and that's an expression of the strength of you know protecting yourself, what you've been through, and making sure you don't go through it moving forward, and setting up measures to be safe. So that's what this piece is about, and it's almost like a necklace, right? That's I kind of like to hang it like that, even though I've hung it before where it doesn't have that little dip there. But I like to hang it like this because it's kind of like a necklace, um like a leke or something like this. So that's Shutters.
Mhm. Okay, and then some more masks. So these masks here was in the exhibition. So sometimes I have the mask. Each one of them has its own name, its own narrative, its own meaning, and sometimes they're shown together and as a or grouped in a way that it has a certain thought. So this one is traveling home, discovering me. So it has the black and gold, the red and gold, the fire within, and so these are different masks. And so this is also again about parts of my healing journey in terms of being in a dark space, but nothing's ever fully dark, right? You're never going through, I mean, even in the worst moment, there's something that we could grab onto, be grateful for, to look at. And so doing this work, some of the, yes, I have a lot of mass, thanks. And showing this work, the first one, the black and gold one, it's meant to represent that darkness, but not fully dark. Like there's something brewing. There's some, there's something that could develop more, right? And then towards the bottom, the red and gold one is like, like sometimes when you see something, we see things as face value. We never know what someone is going through. So for me, that red and gold one represents a lot of like anger and just frustration and all those things, but it was just trapped inside. Hi, Trina. Thank you for joining us. Another artist and curator. And so that is representing, a lot of still, I think I still am working towards like being comfortable when I'm upset or expressing it to the where it gets out. Because for many years, it was just something that I had to hold in and keep going. And then the silver one is like the next progression of those things where like it's more of a healing that's represented in the work. There's still that fire within, right? And also representing myself, because sometimes I do paint my face, and that's one of the ways I paint them, where I would have the red and some, tribal dots and different things like that. So that's kind of what these masks represent, different processes, different elements of myself. And I think that's something that, even though some of my work is me sharing about me, it's also about so many people that's gone through these things. It's not only about me, right? It's I may be the one that has a platform to talk about it, but it's also talking about it for others who may not have their voice yet, or who may not feel, or who may feel isolated. So that's why it's important for me to be able to speak out on these things, whether it's speaking, whether it's through art and different things like that. So thank you, Facebook user. I think someone in the group. Thank you so much. Oh, I guess so this one here is Yamaya. So Yamaya is also another Yoruba Orisha, and it's also another mask that I made. This is one of the earlier masks that I've made. And this piece someone from the Facebook group said art is healing. Absolutely, it is. Thank you, ladies, for being so brave. Thank you so much. So, Yamaya, she was a mother of the sea, but she was a mothering. And, I think anyone who's gone through any type of healing, or people talk about the inner child wounds, all those things like that. And, sometimes we have to learn to mother ourselves, or, there's something I came across that it said that we are the people that we wanted, that we needed as a child. And so, Yamaya being a mother and just connecting to that, but also this is when I, like part of just learning about the different Orishas. And for me, I think it's really important, a lot of times when we talk about Black people, people of the African diaspora, there's so many things that the enslaved Africans were stripped of: their culture, their religion, their practices, their languages, and all those things. And a lot of things was given to them by their oppressors and slave masters. And so for me, learning, I want to go back to what was taken from our ancestors. And so it's important to me to kind of want to learn about that and share as I learn. And so, some of my work specifically like I love learning, researching, and educating. So sometimes I name a piece, so people are like, who's that, what's Yamaya, and that starts a conversation that now that they hopefully may go down that journey of discovering some of the practices that we're taking out from our ancestors. Okay, I thought we were going back and forth, but we're kind of stuck here for a little bit, so that's fine. So this is
Well, I think we had three in a row. If
uh,
you want to
that's
move
fine.
forward and then we can move backward.
I'm
It's
fine
okay.
with it. So this piece again is named after Orisha Olokun. So this piece was done. It's a painting. So it's done in 2011, and I was invited to be one of the artists for an exhibition, a showcase that was centered around Juneteenth. And me being a first generation American, I didn't even know the holiday or anything like that. So, I really enjoyed using that exhibition as my jump into learning about the holiday and what the importance of it. And so, and I'm very, I love using symbols. So sometimes in the works, like there's certain symbols, like there, so Olokun is one of the Orishas that was said to be, the protector of those enslaved Africans as they passed, during the transatlantic slave trade. Um, Thank you so much. And so, so for me, so learning about, so blue, even though blue is consistent in a lot of my work, blue was because it was symbolizing Texas. So you have the lone star, the one star. And so in this particular, and there's some symbols in the background that connects to Olokun. So the two hands are like the parents who were in shackles, and they're holding this baby, and underneath it is underneath it are some shackles that are broken, and so that underneath their hand it has what's representing cotton, and it's filled with blood, the blood that was shed from all of those atrocities that happen. And then you have this child, the future generations that are being born free, well, physically free, right? We're still fighting, every day for our freedom in so many ways. So, and for those who may not know about Juneteenth, it's a holiday that I think at some point a year or so ago became a national holiday, but it's representing when, Texas, I think, was the enslaved were free, but they didn't know that they were free, and so they had to literally send a group of people to go tell them, that they're free. And so Juneteenth, June 19th, is now celebrated as the Juneteenth holiday, even though in some states, like for example, Florida, their Emancipation Day is in May. So, but now it's being recognized as a national holiday, but that's what this piece is representing. Chuck, educational, thought-provoking artistry, simply amazing work, ladies. Thank you so much. And so, Khaulah.
Mhm. All right, so now we get into this one. Um, this piece, there are a few other pieces in the exhibition that relate to this piece because when I was in grad school, um, I created some amazing paintings, right? In my opinion, and they, I did all, I labored over this work, and as time progressed, I learned that there are some things I didn't know. I didn't know some things about material qualities that, over time, as artists, some people have work that is, temporal, and some people are committed to making work that is, archival. And at the time, and still now, I create works that can be either. So these pieces that I made were not, I wasn't considering any of those things. I was just making what felt good. Um, and over time they broke down. So I was using this boiled linseed oil, and it broke down. Um, and when I see these paintings just like melting, I'm like, ah, oh no, because that's not what I did them to do. Um, but this brought me to some other understanding about how, you know, sometimes things that are intended for you are not for you. So, these are, structures, strictures, um, social plans that were designed before I was ever born. They are there, but as much as we feel like they are strong enough to withstand all of time, they are not. And we do have the power to, collectively, we have the power to, override these things. Um, so this is a piece that's on Birch. And, know, I'm one who's willing to break, you know, explicitly break shit down. Let's break this shit down, right? So, it's my own creation. It's not supposed to be that way. So what I did is I carved those bars into that, and then I started using this in some of my other works as well. These bars represent, you know, not like a prison bar, but like the bars that are a gate that protect you. So like, and the work that you do to keep yourself safe and have a certain awareness for the things that are putting you in an unsafe space, uh, to really scratch at that. So this is like a very meticulous task, this, scraping of these things, which I could have done it very much easier with, a powered tool. But I did this by hand because it's represents the labor that we have to do to, break down all the things we've been told to be and all the things around us that tell us who we are. So that's essentially what this piece is. And I don't know if you can see it in this image, probably not. But zoom in on your computer if you can. There's a little image on the bottom right corner there. Um, and it's a photo from one of my a trip to Panama that I went to, and it's a structure like not dilapidated, but like a structure that could use some restoration. Okay, and there's a gate out front of it, so that represents all of that. So then this is kind of takes that little photo that I took, and it amplifies that there are things that have been built that are strong, but they can break down. And then if we are committed to rearranging how we relate to those structures, we can build something new in a way. So that's what that piece is about.
It's powerful. Natalie said that's such a deeply emotional piece. Wow, thanks for sharing. I thought it was Twin Towers collapsing with fire and smoke in the background. Oh, Angel, hey.
It relates. Yes.
Hmm. I think that's the beauty of art, right? Because everyone is able to um, pull something different, right? And that's life too, right? A lot of times when we're interfacing with people, sometimes we can project, or sometimes we're taking on things based on our own, what we think, what our biases, what our experiences are. And that changes the same thing. You could have one object, but everyone sees it differently. So, which is always the reason why artist talks are so great, because not every time that you go into a gallery space, an exhibition space, that you get to speak with the artist to get, I mean, yes, you could come there and if it touches you, if it moves you, if you don't care, if it makes you angry, whatever, but to be able to talk with the artist and see what did they mean by that piece is really, really great. So.
Yes.
Olmec, the father of Mexico. So this was a piece before I was doing the mass, because I was doing a lot of paintings, but I wanted to get 3D. I knew I wanted to be, multi-dimensional, and I really started exploring different mediums like clay and plaster and paper mache and things like that. But again, another piece where, you know, also meant to be educational. So the Olmecs, which are these huge sculptures that are undeniably African, right? You couldn't chop that. I mean, they chopped the nose off the Sphinx, but if you chop the nose off of this sculpture, you still see that it's African. But they were here thousands of, many, many years ago. So they're known as the father of the Mexico, Aztec, and Mayan civilization. So I wanted to create a piece with that. And so there's a blending of indigenous Americans, Native Americans, symbols, and as well as Africans. So there's a little bit of texture. It's made to look like an ancient coin. And this was my take. This is not exactly how the Olmec sculptures look, but this is just like my representation of it. And then there is the African gray feather from the bird. There are the cowrie shells, which, in Africa, many places they use it for many things. It was money, it was calling the ancestors, there was a lot of things. But that's meant to represent, like the elements of Africa. So, for me, another one of the things that sometimes people often feel that Black people only got to America by way of the slave trade or by way of, but there were Black people in America prior to that, prior to Columbus. So that was why I felt it was like a necessary piece for me to make and kind of share that and just start the question. Angel, where are the Olmec heads found in Mexico? I don't know the exact location.
Yeah, Google it. You gotta Google it.
Good, yeah.
Yeah,
And I did. I mean, this
Google it.
is a piece from
Not
2015.
you.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I could have Googled it right now. But at the time, I did a lot of research. It's an older piece. So I don't remember all of the details. But they're found in, I don't know exactly where in Mexico they were found, but they're all over. They're huge. I think they're like, 8 feet, 9 feet, things like that. Uh, no, we're not. Okay.
Don't Google it.
So,
Let Angel Google it. You gotta.
yeah, that's fine. So yeah, but
Yeah,
oh, Chuck said, oh, Googled it. La Venta.
he Googled it.
Or he knew. So
Oh,
yeah, so this is just the father of Mexico, because the Olmecs are referred to as the father of Mayan and Aztec civilization. And the Mayan and Aztecs are known as a very older civilization of people that were here in the United States. So that's why this piece was created, to kind of start that conversation of who are the Olmecs, what is that? And also kind of just breaking up that stereotype that only, Black people only came through during the slave trade.
yeah. So, this piece is one of the ones that this actually I created after, when I was mentioning before my thesis work. Um, this is a piece I created after that, and this is when I got more and more abstract. So the structures are completely, derived from my brain or my, subconscious memories. Um, so this piece, we are allowed to make mistakes. Um, that quite simply means we get to make mistakes. So when those works started to break down and like melt and all that, um, I wanted to really like highlight how important it is to allow ourselves grace. And this is something I personally don't quite often give myself as much as I logically know to do that. So this is really a piece to encourage people, specifically Black people, more specifically Black women, to allow ourselves some grace. We get to make mistakes. And if you haven't made a mistake and you're able to walk, that's impossible, right? So, it's about living and moving forward and learning as we go, um, and sharing what we've learned. And then as we share, like as an educator, I share what I know, but that doesn't mean that, my students have to accept that. They get to make their own choices. So it's really about having knowledge and choosing your path, the path that you chose before you could even walk, right? So that's what this piece is about.
Mm. I feel like I strive for perfection at times, probably too much. But yeah, giving grace. That's definitely one of the things I'm learning.
I'm definitely learning it too. But they say, if you can't do, then teach.
Yeah,
So
but I
maybe I can teach people to
just
give
to
themselves
remind.
grace as much as I don't allow that for myself. But,
Yeah,
therapy, I gotta write that down.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes I
Yeah.
have to catch myself, like, okay, it's fine. I made a mistake, or this is not perfect. This is not how, like, yeah, giving yourself grace. Absolutely, I
Hmm.
think this is definitely a huge part of life journey. Much less, if you're healing through things. Tuning in. um, Another one of my math series, just exploring different medium. This is plaster on wood, and it has some golden cowrie shells. Um, and for me, tuning in is just being comfortable being by myself, reflecting. There were times in my past where, as long as I'm ripping and running, I'm fine. The minute I'm by myself, it was just a whole dark wormhole. And for me, um, growing and healing and just, growing up, um, you know, now I love it to sit by myself and to just kind of tune in. How do I feel? Where do I hold some tension in my body? Do I got to do some breathing? Do I feel sad? Do I need a moment? Um, and just that, the eyes are just closed, to kind of like in self reflection and just going in. There are some, sometimes I have the tribal, like these marks on the face that, that there are tears. I used to do a lot of like eyes with tears that would turn into oceans and things like that. But tears can be happy, tears can be growth, tears can be joy, tears can be a lot of things. And also, you know, exploring using other materials into it, like the cowrie shells. So that's what this piece is about. Grace is a lesson that leaves room for transformation. Actually, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Another mass, the guardian. You know,
What's wonderful about the mask? Like it's like, dang, Niki Lopez got a lot of masks. But what's wonderful about the mask is that each one, as clearly it is a mask, right? They're different,
yes,
So. It's not another mask. You sounded
Well,
like golly.
so fun fact about me and the mask, right? Because there's things that I do, and like I'm not always connected to why I do something or the deeper meaning of something, or just like, oh, this is a pattern, right? And so it wasn't until a few years back, I don't know if you remember, you invited me to the Spady to give a presentation on mass. And
Hmm.
I was like, sure. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if I have enough mass to do a presentation. And but sometimes you go into, I have this imposter syndrome that sneaks up on me, and it's just like, it's just silly. But
Hmm.
in putting together that presentation, not only did I, tears can be libation, absolutely. Um, Not only in putting together that presentation, not only did I realize I have a lot of mass, and this was like several years ago, but also that I always had some element of mass for many, many years, because like even when I paint my face, it is a form of a mask. And so
Hmm.
what I connected to too is just like how long that I've been doing some type of mask, and so anyway, just a little sidebar. But the Guardian. So again, this is another mass. It's mixed media. There's this found object, this old drawer, and I use that as the base. The background, and you see like some skies and some symbols there. So a lot of my earlier paintings, they would have a lot of like the celestial, some type of um, the stars, certain constellations in there. And so this one is also having, the face paint and the hair, the locks, but just, the guardian, like, having to be, you know, your own protector, your own guardian, so as we grow into those things and just affirming that for myself, and affirming that for others, so that's what this piece is about. And one of the things I really enjoy in getting into like not just painting, but I realized over the years I'm very tactile. Like I like to have my hands in the material, in the, like when I'm putting things together, I'm massaging, I'm playing, I'm, just being with whatever the material that I'm working on and playing around with it, and just kind of seeing where I want it to go and what feels right. And just I just love that process of feeling the material and seeing where it happens. And sometimes when I'm doing these things, I don't even know the end, how it's going to look, and what type of treatment I'm going to do to the, like, is it going to look like metal? This is actually not metal. It's made to look like metal, but that is this piece. Oh, the Guardian too. So, so the other Guardian was made years ago. So this is actually a newer piece that I did recently for this exhibition, and so this is. I can just see when you're doing something for a while, like the jump from the first Guardian to this Guardian, right? Um, but like I said, I had this mold that I created, so I'm able to like build out. Even though I'm the base of the mass is similar, the end product is always different. So in doing art, I have a lot of work now. They're larger works, and sometimes people ask, "Oh, if there's something for sale." And of course, as an artist, independent artist, professional artist, it's great to have when you have a sale. But I'm not. I don't really push, like that's not my, like that's not my main objective. Making the work, sharing it, what it means, how it feels to me. Those are kind of more prevalent. But at the same time, you also want to have things that people can collect. So this is kind of a blend of wanting to create a series of small works that were more accessible for people to collect. So this is the one that I created for our exhibition, where I'm going to make 50 of these. but each one will be different, and they're priced for easy collection. So of course, if anybody's interested, let me know. But yeah, so this is the second version of the Guardian. This work is incredible. Thank you so much. So, yeah, just the same way as I feel that I've learned to become my own guardian, but also a symbol of, how I feel we all should be, right? We all should be our own guardians. As we're able to guard ourselves and protect ourselves and work on ourselves and do better for ourselves, it helps everyone, right? If everyone's working on themselves, imagine where we would be in a few years of understanding and empathy and all these things. So that's this piece, The Guardian. Khaulah.
Perfect. I'm so glad this is the next piece that came up because guess what? Can you go back 2 slides? Boop bop. Wait, was that 2 or 3?
Which slide are you going to?
The first Guardian.
Oh, the first Guardian. Mm-hmm.
That one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you look in the top left corner there, those
Mm-hmm.
concentric circles, that's in a deeper symbol,
Mm-hmm.
the blue concentric circle. So go forward. That is called the Adinkarine, right? So this piece, that's what this piece, centers on. And it's interesting that like I was like, dang, this some of the things you were discussing, and I've heard you talk about that piece, but some of the things you were discussing, they actually like relate very deeply to this piece. So it's really perfect that Nikki, we are just aligned, right? So anyway, sometimes. So um this piece, it is like you could see, a figurative form there. Um as much as I've gotten away from the figure, I still love the figure. But anyway, this piece is about there's a like the bars and things that you'll see in my most recent works from the last few years. You'll see the bars and the portals, and in this piece you see that open space, and then the protective bars. So you're guarding yourself and your space, but outside of that, in order to build that for yourself, the Adrinkarene is that is about community. And that's why you have that concentric circle, because we don't function well as individuals alone. So it's about community, and that's where you get that right. So and this piece, you can see there that there are these chains hanging down. So this is, it reminds me of your Olokun painting
Mm-hmm.
with the unchained quality. Whereas previously I've shown this piece and the chains, I hung them from the ceiling like this. So it's like, it almost looks like the figure is being strung up, drawn and quartered type of situation. But for this show, I was like, yo, let's free this figure, And I consider it to be a female form. She's very, relatively curvaceous. Even though that wasn't the plan, but like that's what I saw later, maybe because I always see curves, you know what I'm saying? So and in a lot of my relatively recent work, I find some tricky way to, or not that tricky actually, some intentional way to apply red, black, and green in there, um, for Black people. The and actually when I got this one back from the last exhibition it was in, there it was there were some little nicks and dings, and it infuriated me. So if I make some nicks and dings in my work, I'm like, so who cares? No, 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 you don't do that. I can mess up my stuff, you shouldn't mess up my stuff, right? So anyway, when I got it back, I said, well, what should I do? Should I just throw it in the trash? That's something that I've been working on for myself, not just throwing everything in the trash, throwing people in the trash, throwing artwork in the trash. Like what works here? and it's a variety of editing that has to happen in order to move forward. Some things are scrapped, some things are not. So I ended up going back in on this, though it's an older piece that I created in what, 2013 it says. Oh, 2023. Oh, what, well, 2023. So I
Twen-
guess less than a year ago. I don't know.
We're in 2023.
I, well, I don't know. So anyway, you didn't have to do that. So I went back into it when I got it back, and I made those sides like really rich, and they represent blood. The blood that was shed to get there to that safe space. They represent, the blood that courses through our veins, the blood that we share with our people, and the blood that binds us. So like I really had a great time, like really just like, and as tactile as you said you are, I am too. Oh gosh, boo. So like I finger painted this, and that you're not supposed to do that. So to anyone out there listening, do not finger paint oil without gloves. But that's what I did because I want to feel it. So yeah, that's what this piece is about. So this piece was previously shown chained up. Now she is unchained and she's resting on the floor like she gets to chill and relax. But the bars still are there, and the portal that she went through, that passageway, she put a barrier for any negative energy that might want to infiltrate that safe space that she's created, that we have created. So that's what this piece is about, and I'm with it.
Actually, Angel had a question. Said, "I noticed you include a lot of bars in your work, and Nikki incorporates a lot of mass in her work. Why is that? What are you guys guarding?" But you did kind of mention a little bit about the bars. I don't know if you want to elaborate anymore.
I did. So the bars are about protection. It's not about guarding. Um, well, that is a variety. It's not about guarding or like masking who I am or anything like that. It's about protecting who I am.
Mhm.
So, you know, and that's something else that is, whoo, therapy. I'm on my way. But like protecting who I am, um, I need to be safe. And not only is it about me, and that's why that symbol is so important, because it's not just about me. It's about bringing in the people and everybody I know and love and could potentially know and love. People who don't want to do my people harm. All those people should be safe and protected. So it's also about community just being safe. So that's what that recurring symbol in my work um, means. Let's go to the next slide.
Well, he asked.
I
Oh,
think we're gonna go over a little bit, like a couple, like 10 minutes,
oh,
if
that's
people
fine.
don't mind. If they do, they could just, you know,
Yeah. And for me, the
click it off.
mass was me wanting to uncover those masks, right? Um, Growing up, of having to like be too sensitive and being in a space where sensitivity was a sign of weakness and you had to be strong, you had to be all these things. We were going through a lot of things and just turning inside, and not being able to express myself, not being able to change my situations, not being able to get, not be protected, and so, actually, one of my first mixed media sculptures is a piece called Hello, and it's several masks. And you have to look at them a certain way because most, like, let's say if there's five masks in a line, and four of them, the first four doesn't have any eyes, and the last one has an eye because it's like, representing all the different personalities and layers that we have to go through before we get to the essence, the soul of the person. And actually, several years ago, I wrote a poem about take off my mask, right? So, like, for me, my healing journey and all these things has been like uncovering and going back to like, what are those natural essence of who I was in terms of like being a sensitive child and having to be tough and then feeling disconnected from my feelings and disassociating and just like getting those feelings back over time. And and still sometimes like, oh, how do I feel? I have to check in. Or sometimes I could go through something and I could easily just like, whoop, I'm over there, my body is here, but I'm over there, and I'm just going, going,
Mm,
going. So being present, right? And
yeah.
you know, I'm not going to go too much deeper into the whole mask thing, because someone asked me several years ago about, why would I paint my face? And initially, I have different reasons of why I would say that I would paint it. But it took actually someone that I knew since birth. And when they took their life, and me finding out about that, and it brought me back to the first time I painted my face when I was a teenage, like going through something. It was actually meant to cover scars, because I was like inflicting scars on myself, and I didn't have any language about that at the time. I would just kind of just be so frustrated that I would literally like scratch or like cut myself and things like that, and then I would just cover it with paint and whatever it is that I markers and things like that. It's like, oh yeah, she's just a weird artist person, but I was covering those things. And so the mask for me has many reasons behind it, but it's symbolic of all of those things, as well as wanting to, like, I don't want someone to just take me as face value, like the person, people like my tribe or people that I'm around, like all of me, like not just what shows up in this room, but what shows up in every room. So
Well, I think, well, that. Thank you for being so vulnerable, and I appreciate that you do that. And I try to do that as well. And one of the threads I think that binds our work, with other people's work as well, but we're talking about us, okay? So one of the threads that binds our work, I think, is that um, we both are committed to people being free. Everybody should be able to be who they are, do what they need to do, as long as they're not harming any other person. So um, I think that's kind of what, like when I was talking about those bars in my work, and you talking about the mask, behind the mask, guess what? You could be who you are. You're not going to be harmed, so, and if someone comes for you, guess what? They don't even know it's you. So, I think that's what's something that's a thread that binds our work. All right, that's all I had to say about that. Uh-oh, spaghetti. Another mask?
another mass. So this one is called Rest Easy, Beloved. So this one was something that was done. Oh gosh, I feel a little emotional now. um, but my youngest sister, from my mother's side, she was born with Down syndrome, and for several years she was suffering with stage 4 kidney failure, and a lot of she started having seizures from some of the medicines and things like that. And so uh, last year it was a really traumatic time for me in terms of and my family, just different things. So um, a fire alarm triggered a seizure that triggered a heart attack, because she started getting really sensitive to sound and light. And so unfortunately, she ended up in the hospital, and she was in an induced coma for like a month and a half. And, it was really hard, huh? It was really a challenging time, because at the time I was sick. I couldn't go to the hospital right away. So it took several days of her being there before I could actually go there. And it was devastating, not only that she's going through this, but to see her how she was. And she didn't, like, she could say certain things, but she couldn't hold a conversation. And so, like, one of the things is just like, I've talked to thousands of people, but not have had a conversation with my sister. And then just seeing her like that, and the dynamics of, a family having to deal with someone, not everybody's, like, yeah, some people can recuperate from those things, and some people, they do not. And sometimes it's hard to let go. And there's a lot of things going on at that time. And so, one of the things that, that kind of was a moment for me, because I would go and visit her frequently, is that we both shared a love of art. And so I was just kind of drawn to create a piece and just be. A lot of times when I'm making my work, I'm literally in this really kind of like meditative state, in terms of like, I'm saging, I preparation, and, uh, do certain works to just kind of prepare the space, prepare me for doing the space, and all of those things. So with this piece, it was just really, creating a space where I could feel whatever I needed to feel, play music that I know she would listen to. And I was resting and painting the whole time. And this is the piece that came out of that. And it's just me, like, trying to communicate, but also realizing that even though we may not have verbal communication, we had art. I would often bring her over to my studio, and we'd paint. I have some of her masks, some of her paintings. And she, Easter would get, we'd get the eggs, and, her with the children. And so, it was such an intense moment for me that she actually visited me in my dream. And she wasn't paralyzed in the dream. She went from paralyzed to not paralyzed, and she wanted to say something to me, and she started touching her. Her throat, as in being in discomfort. And I said, "Don't worry about it." And then she smiled and fell asleep next to me. And which I was kind of, that kind of clicked, like, oh, we didn't need words. We had art, we had this, and there were so many things. But I felt, very connected to her in those days, in her final moments, even up to when she passed. Like, I was a minutes from the hospital, and I felt something. And so this piece is just me kind of like having an energetic, a spiritual space of just like giving her permission to move on, and myself permission, and just, but also like, oh my God, this is my sister, this is my baby sister. Like, I've never experienced that. I've experienced loss, but not on that level. And so this is one of the two pieces that came out of that.
So I think the next one on the slide is the one you actually made first, right?
No.
You made this one before you made the last one?
Yes, this was the first piece.
That was the first piece. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one, and so her name was Meri, and it was Egyptian for beloved. So, and most people, when they came across her path, they definitely fell in love with her. Thank you. Yes. And so this piece is saying farewell. So she did pass last year in August, and though we're not practicing Muslim, she was buried, given a Muslim burial where, they do a janaza, they do a certain ceremonial bath, and the body is shrouded in white cloth. So that's what this white cloth, there was no gold in her actual thing, but I just wanted to, kind of elevate her since she was now elevated as, one of my ancestors now. Um, and so there's also, you can't really see, but there's like a little scarab beetle that's on her outfit. Um, and so, because her name was Egyptian, I wanted to have something referencing Egypt. And when I looked up the scarab beetle is very significant in ancient Egypt as it relates to their burial ceremonies and giving life, and and the second life and all those things. So I wanted to add that, and having the sky and the gold. And this piece actually ended up in an exhibition that Khaulah curated with two other people, where we had, visual artists were paired with literary artists, and everyone did a piece to a prompt, and then we are given, the names are in the hat, and then a writer got this piece and wrote something, then I got a written piece and created a piece of artwork. And it was interesting when I finally met the poet that I was paired with. She just was given the picture. She had no idea what the piece meant. And when I told her it was in honor of my sister that passed, she had explained to me that her poem was in honor of her grandmother who passed. And so it was just kind of interesting how that aligned. But this is meant to be that piece right there.
Yes. So the group that she was talking about for the last piece, um, that's Rubber Bands, follows on the internet. That's me, Cherie, and Taina. And one of my later pieces in this talk um, is from that exhibition. And it's an annual exhibition that we have where we highlight Black women and women of color. And it's an invitational situation. Me, Cherie L. Greer, and Taina Derville, Rubber Bands. So now let's talk about this piece. Let's get into it. Interestingly enough, this is a piece that um, speaks about transcending in a way. Um, so this mirror, and this is a mirror that I got from a friend, um, and it says Nick is this is a new symbol. So I like to like explore ways of integrating Adinkra symbols into my work. And this is an Adinkra symbol I've never used before. Um, the Waforo Duapa. This symbol is about community. So um, this piece is heavily relies on light. So the the reflection. So this is a relatively interactive piece. So the viewer can come there, stand in front of that mirror, and the way the light bounces off of it, you see that symbol reflected on your body. So you see how you are connected to the community. You know, if we were Titanic, nobody would say, "Get off of my door." You know what I mean? We will help you onto the door. We will find a way because we are all part of a community. And that's how we function well. That's how we function best. So if you stand in front of this piece, you see that and hopefully you feel it. And then you move forward and you have that as engage with others. So so a portion of the title is, Nikki don't need no more enemies, right? So guess what? We are not each other's enemies, period. We don't have to be. And as long as we connect with community, we will be strong and we will support each other and we will protect each other. And guess what? You're not alone. You are not alone, period. As long as you like stand in front of this particular mirror, because you cannot see yourself in this mirror. All you see is community. And then when you look at yourself, you see community. So that's what this um, piece is meant to inspire.
You for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and I love the way you resurrected her through your work. May she live on through your work. Absolutely. She definitely does.
Boom. Okay. Let's get into it, Nikki. um, so this piece is the opposite of the last piece. It's about, you knew I was going to do it. It's about how, there are those out there, if you know what I mean, who do not engage in community in, a powerful, meaningful, loving way. So this is a mirror that I stole from a bank. So I used to work for a couple of different banks. Call them out. U.S. Bank, boom. Bank of America, boom. I worked for them um, as a teller, a floating teller, and they always wanted me to do more. They say, "Hey, come, you know, don't you want to be a personal banker?" And then I had one tell me, "Oh, you know what? You should apply for the assistant manager position. You don't even have to climb the ladder because, you know people," which I do. But no, I'm not doing that because the system is guess what? Upped. So I'm not interested. And so this mirror is from a bank in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I don't care. I'm not gonna work there again. There is a statute of limitations. So this is a beautiful historical structure. Um, a beautiful building on the corner of Farwell and North in Milwaukee. And they were remodeling the upstairs. And this is the troublesome part of it, where it's like the individual is valued more than the group. So, and this so they're remodeling the second floor, which used to be office space and is now empty, right? Vacant. And the first floor is still, a banking space. Second floor is where employees have, use the bathroom, whatever, go on lunch break, da 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 da. So I go up there and they got this mirror and they're breaking it off the women's bathroom and stuff like this. And I said, "Hey, guess what? Let me get that mirror up off you." And the guy who's there, he's like, "We can't do that because it's bank property." I said, "Well, what you gonna do with it?" He said, "Throw it in the trash." Wow. I don't think so. He said, "You can't take it." So, well, all right. Boom, I took it. So, and I didn't know what it was for until I got it here for this show. So this is a new piece that I created for this show. Um, and this is another piece that relies heavily on, reflection. So reflect on, who you are, what your practices are, who you engage with. Um, if you're engaging with those who would rather, like um, one time I was at Panera and I was like, "Oh, you're about to throw away all these hundreds of bagels and whatnot?" They said, "Yes, we have to. We have to throw it away." And I understand that there are health codes and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But you're throwing away all this food instead of serving it out to people who are hungry. And that is a problem, in my opinion. So, um, on this piece, I wrote in reverse, identify the thief. So, yes, I stole this mirror, but who's the real thief? It's those who prefer to deny people rights, freedoms that they want for themselves. Everybody wants to eat, but you purposely choose to not provide food for others. Everybody wants to be seen and heard and loved, but there's domestic violence, and I love you in this way, and I bust you in your head. That's, that's not love. So identify the thief is not just about, you know, thievery. It's about identifying the criminals, those who do wrong, and not avoiding that acknowledgement. It is wrong to do certain things to harm others. And if people are trying to live and survive and thrive best they can, you know, quite often those who are already thriving and, beyond necessity, they're unwilling to share that bounty because of how important it is for them to, maintain their hierarchical status of, I'm better than you. And to what end? So that's what this piece is about. Upon reflection, we should be able to identify the actual thief. If I stole some food from the store, guess what? Am I hungry? Probably, you know? So that's where I go with this one. And it rests on the floor and it's kind of quiet. So I want this piece to be kind of quiet. It gets louder at night, though. And that is the beauty of it. At night. So 1310, and you'll see it when you go if you're able and you're local. At night, when darkness falls, that's when this piece gets really strong. So the images we're seeing are daytime images because the space has these huge windows. So um, when you see this piece at night, you really can see the actual thief, right? And that's something I didn't expect. And, you know, I love it. That's that tale.
Angel was asking, what symbol is that? Is that a decre symbol, right?
Yeah, that's Waforo Duapa.
Okay, that's the name of the symbol.
Hey, yeah. So the first portion of it is the name of the Adinkra symbol, and then the parentheses is Nikki don't need no more enemies.
All right.
But that's the Adinkra symbol.
All the feels. Another large piece, it's 48 by 60. And this was the second piece that, we were talking a little bit about the exhibition that Khaulah had where the literary artists were paired with the visual artists. And so
Well, rubber bands.
rubber bands.
Rubber bands.
Yes. The rubber bands is Taina, Khaulah, and Cherie. And so I was given a written piece that the joke is that I told them that I really need to see the video, that they put my name and someone else's name, and that's how we got paired, because the piece, so this was the second piece in that exhibition. So everyone did two pieces. So this was a response to something that I read from the poem. But the poem, I felt was a self-reflection. It was talking about ancestors, which, my piece was talking about my new ancestor, Meri. It was talking about being resilient and pulling oneself up from the bootstraps and being, and being a force to be reckoned with. And I just felt like this was a piece, even though we've never met, that was written for me. So this is again using the mass, parts of the mass elements. And this piece, you can't really tell so much, but it has a lot of texture. So all around the face and stuff like that, it was more like the process of like all of the things. I mean, um, I've dealt with a lot over the years, but last year was just really taxing on so many levels for me, and huge losses. And so just being in that space and being in this space of like, understanding that, okay, I was in a depressive state, and losing and grief, and as well as growth, right? So there's like texture, there's me using my hands and fingers to scratch through and pull through, and um, different pieces. But so there's different colors in there. There's some greens you don't really see, um, even though a lot of the um, a lot of the space of the canvas looks dark. There's also some like bronze and golds and other colors, so it's not all dark. So just this process of just different things I was feeling, different things I've lived through, different things that I'm aware of or that surround me. And then just being in this space where, like, again, going back to the healing journey, right? So that face is just sitting there, emanating and still emanating this light. So the light, the darkness and the light is all a part of this person, this being, myself, right? But it's still a calm, even with all the chaos. Like, it's just sitting with all those things, right? And so, in terms of healing journeys, when people feel like, oh, I wish this didn't happen to me, I wish it, to sit with everything, right? Because all of those things that you've gone through, literally makes you who you are today, in that moment, makes you resilient. And sometimes, in getting to that space where, people say, where you are able to take your pain and turn it into a purpose, or where you're able to see the things that you've gone through, like, oh, I had to go through this because this, like, I could handle it and be able to turn it into something else to be helpful to myself and others, right? And just sitting with all those parts, right? Because true peace, true healing comes from when you're able to sit with all of your parts, the broken parts, the happy parts, the things you're proud of, the things that you're ashamed of, like all of those things. And so this piece is talking about, is speaking to, um, sitting with all of those things. Thank you, Chuck. Brilliant symbolism. Is sitting with all of those pieces, and having, given permission to be in all of those spaces, feel everything, and still know that you're whole, you're complete, you're loved, you're safe, you're protected, like all of those things. So that's what uh, this piece is about. Angel said, your feeling definitely transsudes through this work. That's a gift. Thank you so much. And it's interesting. So over the years, like of recent years, I've been getting more clarity of like the process of me leading up to the painting, starting a new piece, working on a piece, and how that impacts the work, right? So before, I wasn't really intentional. I would just like, sometimes I have to set up like music and this, and okay, I have a glass of wine maybe, or, have things around me. And initially, that setup was because I needed how much time to go through the process of, starting a piece. I go through this whole imposter syndrome. Am I even an artist? I don't know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And all of these things, and then get to a place where I'm like, now I'm in the work and I don't even know it. And I'm like, oh, and realizing at some point, I don't even know when that part disappeared for me, but also being more intentional about, the meditative state that I feel that I create, that's a part of my process of creating these works, right? So whether it comes through cleaning the space, organizing my things in a certain way, listening to certain types of music. Sometimes, I love, burning some incense or saging my place and saging myself, the art. um, and I don't always talk. I hardly never talk about it. Just recent of that, I'm like, okay. And then I've been on this journey of learning like mind body medicine and soft belly breathing and all those things, and really intentionally incorporating into the work. So this piece is really special in terms of when I was working on the piece, not only was for this really unique show that I felt like this piece was, that poem was written for me. There's no way that it was written for anyone else. But the lady said it was written for her grandmother. And so that was a wonderful thing that she's like, wow, I didn't know this piece was about your sister. And I wrote this about my grandmother. Um, but just really taking ownership of the space that I'm creating for myself while I'm creating the work. And when it was shown first, so this is the second time it's being shown publicly, but the first time it was shown, people were really drawn to the piece because, and I kept hearing people say, oh, I feel this energy from the piece. And it was just really interesting because I felt like I was being more intentional and like, hey, this is a part of my process. I'm not, I was just doing it aimlessly, but this is a part of my process, and really sitting with that. And so seeing that came through on the other side of the viewer is just really amazing to, experience for me. And that is all of the feels. Khaulah.
Mhm. Yes. Um, so this piece is is the impetus of it is another Dinka symbol, the Ketepa, and that's the name of the symbol. Um, and what it means is essentially, um, if you have a good marriage, you'll sleep well. Um, so, and the symbol is, meant to look kind of like a bed or something like this. Yes. Um, so I have really had a strong love for this symbol because not not for romantic love, but for partnerships. And I have several partnerships in my life that are family I'm born into, family I've chosen, you know, which I would call my friends, but I they're beyond that at this point in my life. So, that's family. And it's all about, if you create a bed that if you create a marriage that is healthy and loving, then all parties will sleep well, you know. Now when you leave the bed, you might get into some shit, you know. But guess what? When you come home, you know, figuratively, when you come home, you have a marriage and you can be safe and relaxed. And that's that. So this is a very heavily layered piece. It's a birch with acrylic and enamel. And um, it's got like maybe like 6 layers and it has some print on there as well. So the triangle prints, those I use some burlap to create those prints, and that mirrors the bed, the ketepa symbol. So the triangles, it's about strength. So it's the strongest form, So like if you're gonna build a frame, you gotta put those triangles in there, right? Um, so that's about building, a strong marriage, um, meaning strong relationships, strong community, and there's nothing stronger than the triangle. So that's why I wanted to, put that symbol in there as well. And then at the top, you'll see it's like a circle there, and or a portion of a circle, and that speaks back to the Adinkerhene, even though it's not explicitly that. But it also speaks to, like, you know, kind of the circle of life and cycles. So, there are ups and downs in marriages, there are ups and downs in, communal experiences. But at the end of the day, you're going to get back to an up. As often as you go through a down, you're going to get back to an up. And any pairing, whether it's this community with that community, if you want to have a good marriage, you're going to have some dispute. But at the end of the day, you're going to get back to right. And that's what this piece is all about. It's about, pretty much strangely, about love, which really I don't really talk about much in my work. I always talk about this is fucked up. But this piece is more about, like, it's it's a marriage. And guess what? Marriage is fucked up, but it's not, because it's all, at the end of the day, about love and wanting to be together and committing to being together. So that's what that piece is all about. Que te pa?
So this piece, and I just want to say, thank you all. This is it's an artist talk, and we have, this is a fraction of what we have in the gallery. I think Khaulah said it's like a little over 20 pieces per person that we have spaced out in a 3-floor gallery. So we just took a few pieces to kind of really get into it with you all. And I know, we're going over an hour and a half, and I really appreciate you all for being here with us tonight. We have a few more slides. So thank you so much. So this piece is a site-specific installation. Oh, blue, I am blue, we are blue, we need you. And it's a mixed media. There's several pieces. So inside of the gallery, there's a detail, so you see some of the artwork. So one of the main masks in that is called Healing from Within. And then I have those two smaller masks that are the Egungun, which is like for the ancestors. And so this is the second type of iteration for this particular installation. I did an installation in the park by a banyan tree several years ago. And some of the spiritual artifacts are on loan from a Yoruba priest, and so they all have different symbols in them. Like the alligator belongs to Oshun. There's the mirror for the Yamaya. The cowrie shells also help to call the ancestors. There's a piece for Shango. There's a rose quartz. There was an incense. There's some water. There's a candle. That little box is an heirloom, a piece that my grandmother gave to my mom. My mom gave it to me. And inside of that box has some of the sand from Medi's burial. But this piece was meant to be like an offering. So this piece is meant to be talking about some of the pains I've gone through, some of the pains that I see in the world, some of the pains as, Black women, Black people, Black women in particular have to be so strong, right? We're not strong because we want to be strong. We have to be strong. Society wants us to be strong. I mean, there are times where all types of medical experiments were happening and using Black women as guinea pigs, and it was justified because they're strong. So they could justify the pain that they were inflicting in the name of experiments and medicine. And so this piece was like taking all of those things, the injustice of the world, injustice, the things that's happened to me, and kind of like there's some hair that's being, and there's like ribbons wrapped, and writing all of those things in there, and just sitting with that and sending like a call out to the universe, a call out to our ancestors to help guide us, to help keep us protected, to elevate us, to help bring about more peace on the world, more just, there's a lot of oppression going on in the world, and this is just that kind of piece where I wanted to kind of mix my arts as well as some of the uh, African practices, spiritual practices that I've been learning over the years, and incorporate that into another shareable moment, and having that sacred space. Um, which, it's interesting seeing people kind of say, like, oh, I felt something and I knew when to stop. Some people felt drawn to get a little closer to the piece, and some people said, oh, there's something that says, do not pass this line. So that was really interesting. And it's also not something that's, traditionally seen in exhibition, but it also kind of par for the course in terms of like my work, Khaulah's work, and what we're trying to do in this exhibition as a matter of fact. And so that's kind of a little bit of gist of what this piece is. It's in this box, and there's this hay and burlap and all those things. And um, when we have like the opening night and for the closing, I'll light the candles and sit with it and um, create that space with it. And so that's what that piece is for. And I guess Kaur.
Yeah, this is, I guess, my installation piece. So this is definitely specific to the space. um so I got these objects from one of my homegirls who so the title is If It Don't Work, Choose to Change It. I got my glasses on, but it's a little tiny. And I don't always remember my titles. It is what it is.
That's because
Okay.
you write
If
a
it don't work,
paragraph.
choose to. Hmm?
That's because your
Hmm?
titles are a paragraph.
Okay, my titles. Okay. Okay. So if it don't work, choose to change it. Um, Kathleen be removing and remodeling. Ooh, yeah, it is kind of long. But um, so uh, a friend of mine had me come, or she requested that well, she asked me to help her move some things, blah 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 blah, and take it to the dumpster, which I did several trips, mind you, to the dumpster. Okay, this is why I'm saying don't get a truck, y'all, unless you unless you want people to ask you to come pick up their big ass paintings and come pick up all of their doors and scrap and take it to the dumpster. Okay, help you move a couch or get a truck because you're a nice lady and you want to help people. Mm. Anyway, that's an aside. But this particular, so the thing is, um, I said that jokingly because dude, get a truck. It's nothing like it. Um, but but in in all acts of service that are done, out of love, there is something that you get every time you serve someone lovingly, or some group or some people. Every time you give somebody on the street some money, or buy them a sandwich, or give them the Cliff Bar out your glove compartment, you know every time you do something like that, you get something. um some might call it karma or whatever, positive energy, I don't know, call it what you want to. But in this case, I got all this stuff. Okay. So um these are several doors that she replaced, and there's some drywall and board, the paint roller joint, um some tile that she didn't want anymore, things like this. um and I just kept thinking about it, and thinking about how this is an expression. So this is conceptual art. This is art. This is an expression of concepts that I talk about all day, every day. You know, like out with the old, in with the new. And then sometimes you keep things. So, sometimes you get rid of something that's good for someone else. Like my sister, she always, every time she wants to upgrade something, guess what? I'm like, yes. My sister gets a new air fryer. Yes, I give her old air fryer. So, it's also part of not like wasting and, really considering how to, you know, support others, but also how to support yourself in releasing things that don't work. So, and that's relationships, some toxic relationships folk be having with your friends, with your whole ass family. You know, Auntie is a nasty lady. Sometimes just don't go hang around with her. If she's at the barbecue, you go on the other side. Period. You don't have to call her on her birthday. You don't. So, releasing things that don't work for you, but also understanding that that same thing that doesn't work for you, it might work for someone else. Um, and that person or object, it might not be a problem in another space, but it just doesn't work for you. And that's okay. So that's what this piece is about. You release and remodel. And remodeling means understanding this didn't work, but why did it not work? And moving forward, consider, you know, how to identify those elements in other, things that you might engage with moving forward. So if tiny houses don't work for you, don't go get another tiny house because it's painted blue. you know, like it's still a tiny house. So, think about, is it the tiny house that didn't work for you? Is it because the other house was red? So identifying the elements of what you're releasing that don't work for you. So when you move forward, ideally you can make sure you don't, bump into that same problem. And not just with humans, with objects too. You know, I had a motorcycle, I loved it. And guess what? It was a 250. That could, oh no, it was a 535 uh Yamaha Virago. I can't do no 535 no more. Hmm. I need at least an 1100.
That was it.
Yeah. So that was it.
Okay.
Hopefully I can install that piece in some other spaces, and rearrange it. Maybe depending on what my mood is, that piece, maybe the doors could be laying down or whatever the space suggests. I could, tweak it however it needs to be tweaked into it. So yes, that was it. I need an 1100. Okay. This piece here, um, is a diptych, and what's it called?
Trains pass in the night.
Trains passing the night and the day. Yeah, so this actually is interesting because this piece, in the previous apartment that I was renting, in my bedroom, it weren't actual trains. There were cars, right? But I just trains sound sexier. So, the cars that would pass through, the lights would, it was very beautiful. The lights would pass along the wall. And, quite often I have trouble sleeping. So I lay there in the bed with my eyes open, contemplating life, right? When I need to be asleep. So the lights would pass through, and it was these shapes from the window. And, you know, it was so beautiful because they would cross over, and they would, kind of like undulate, and it would go across the wall and then go across the other wall, and I would just watch that. And one day I was like just staring at it. I said, "Oh my gosh!" So I just got up and got my sketchbook and started drawing it. Um, and this is what came out of that. Um, and I thought about how it seems like this only happens at night. Well, it is, this only happens at night, but it doesn't only happen at night. That's only when I can identify it visually. So, or that's only when I'm actually laying in the bed. Maybe I could identify it visually, if I were to go lay in the bed. So it makes me think about how, um, being present is really important. So this speaks to like in a dream state. If I'm asleep, what's happening in my dreams? People wake up and say, "I don't know what happened." How did you have any good dreams? I don't know. Like it's about just being present in conversation, in your work, um, in your quiet times with your friends and family, um, with the cat. Don't just pet the cat like this. Pet the cat. So it's really about, you know all day every day you have the opportunity to be present, um and it can go any which way. Okay, this is where I get three in a row, huh? Okay. um all right, so this piece is it actually came out of the exhibition that Nikki was talking about earlier. um, Ancestral Doors. This is in response to the poet I was paired with, Cherie L. Greer. Her poem was called Luminosity. And what I got from the poem was it was about ancestors. So the exhibition was called Shiny Things, and there was a narrative that was given to all the participants for their first piece. So for her first piece, she talked about ancestors and all of her ancestors. She named them and everything. And, this made me think of my ancestors and then I just went out of there and I had to read the poem like 57 times. And I just kept thinking about all of the mothers, because that's what she was talking about in the poem, the mothers. So I kept thinking about all of the mothers who came before me and all the doors that they opened for me and for others who aren't even related to them. So um, I just went hard making doors. Um, and in the painting, so that's oil on birch. The painting is, and it's relatively substantial in size. But I thought about pairing it with these other doors. So this is a different iteration of that piece. Is there another slide, Nikki, after this one? Yeah. So this is a different iteration of that piece, because it has, so the first piece just had the greenware, and the greenware is very, very fragile. It's And then when you see this in person, you'll see that it's like dust and there's some broken pieces in the bag because it's very fragile. If you press it, it'll crack because it's not, it hasn't been solidified. It hasn't been in the kiln. So greenware is just raw clay that's been completely bone dry. Um, and then for this iteration of it, I added two other tiers. So the second tier is has been bisqued. So that means the greenware has been put in the clay in the kiln. So it is solid and strong. And then this third tier where there are the red doors, these are doors that have been glazed. So this piece talks about all of the work that the mothers have done, and stages that that work goes through. So some of the work, it doesn't work. And then, you know, it's almost like ideas. So as an artist or a writer, you might have 50, 11 things in your sketchbook, or you might have 50, 11 iterations of some poems. And some of them just don't go nowhere. They don't. And then some of them have legs that might be able to hold them up later. And then some of them are strong and they make it into the show. Some of them are strong and like they make it into the book and get, picked up for some type of journal or something like that. Um, or whatever, a scientist, you have all type of experiments, and then at the end of the day, you know, some of that stuff falls off. But the more you work, the more you have to work with. And the more mothers you have behind you, you know, whether they're living or their ancestors, the more mothers behind you, like the more powerful you can be, the more you have to work with. Um, and that's what I got out of the poem that she wrote. And that's what this piece um, is sharing. Ooh.
Cool, cool. So that brings us to the last slide. And I'm going to just post that in the comments. So if you would like to get some more details on the exhibition, you could go to nikilopez.art/matter_fact_art_exhibition. There's a lot of underscores.
Underscore these whores. Wait, I took it too far.
Oh, Angel said, you seem like you create from a light space. Well done, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And so let
So
me
you
just
can put that in the comments, and you can what's the name that?
but
We can go out of the slides unless somebody wants to see something. And then if there's any questions, we can wrap this thing up.
yeah, so I put
If
in the
anyone knows
comments.
me or Nikki, we love to talk.
Yeah, that was kind of a bit of a challenge. Like, oh, how are we gonna do an artist talk? Well, so yeah, I'm not going to keep you all too long. I'm just really grateful that you could be a lot of places, but you all chose to stay here, stay to the end. Whether you popped in or out, I know someone said, "Oh, I got a class. I'll be back and forth." Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm going to take this down. So yes, it is. As a matter of fact, it's on display. It is up at the 1310 Gallery until June 10th. We will have a closing event. So the closing is between 2 and 6. So between 2 and 3:30, we will have a What's Your Elephant art making workshop and conversation. And so, and sometimes I do offer those workshops virtually. So if you're out of town, keep in touch because I do plan on doing some more in the future. And so What's Your Elephant is a movement that uses the arts to create a safe space to address the unspoken. So we have exhibitions and talks and all these things. And the workshop will be creating a piece. Everyone is invited to create a piece that speaks to an elephant in the room topic for them. And then we talk about it. And then wrapping up after the What's Your Elephant workshop and conversation will be a tea party in the gallery, which is like a daytime party. We have DJ One Star that will be playing. We're going to have a cash bar. And so that's going to be between 3:30, 6-ish. And that'll be the last time to see the exhibition. Now, if you are local, you can reach out to either one of us if you want to schedule a private tour or bring a small group of people. It's just about reaching out to one of us and figuring out a schedule that works for everyone, and we could accommodate. I don't see any more questions or comments. Again, thank you so much for being here. Some people have been asking me, when are you going to bring back the circle? And I'm hoping that I could start it back up this year. I've been doing this since 2018. This is the longest break I've been on, but hopefully I'm able to do that. If you go to YouTube or Niki Lopez Creative on Facebook, you could actually find one of the circle where I interviewed Khaulah specifically on her work. Fabulous presentation. It was truly an honor and hope to share the space again soon. Yes, thank you so much. Khaulah, did you have any final words? Uh, that you
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. And take care of yourself and others.
To see you.
No, like, oh, also, like, go camping. I don't know. And laugh more. Try to find something for yourself that makes you happy and then engage in that thing as much as possible.
Oh, sure. And with that, say on. Good night.